everyone, I'm Sarah and I hope you guys had an awesome weekend and we are back for another Movement Monday today. So today I wanted to take a little bit of time to go over the plank, which isn't a movement but leads to be the basis for a lot of really great movements and is a great overall total body strengthening exercise. Stability exercise and core exercise. So I want to go over first and foremost proper form for the fullest extent version of a regular plank. I will then talk a little bit about some modifications that you can take both to decrease and increase the challenge for your plank. And at the end, we'll have just a little plank challenge to revisit from earlier in our virtual programming. So first and foremost, like I said, proper plank form. So we're going to start off from a high plank position. So when I get started in my plank, I always like to start from hands and knees. That helps me get set up and organized so that my shoulders are right over top of my wrists. My hands aren't out wide or in narrow to increase or decrease my base of stability, but my shoulders also stay over them, so I'll talk a little bit about that later as far as drifting forward and backward goes. The first thing that I want to do is we're going to start from the top of the head as we go through our plank and move down all the way to the heels and talk about a couple of common mistakes. So first things first, bringing it up into our plank position, starting from the top of the head and the neck, you want to make sure that the neck stays nice and neutral all the way through your plank. So some people have a tendency when they get tired to drop their head or to look up at their form for the whole of their plank. But what I really want you to do is once you get into that good form and you see yourself in the mirror, you say, I'm set up correctly, you bring your head back to neutral. So making sure your neck is nice and long. I like to pick a spot about a foot in front of my hands just to take a look out there. Second thing that I want to look at is going to be the shoulder blades. So when you're up in that plank, some people have a tendency when they get tired to kind of pull their shoulder blades together and drop their chest down towards the floor. But what I want you to always think about when you're in your plank is keeping those shoulder blades separated, keeping that upper back nice and broad, keeping that base nice and broad through the whole of your back and that stability through the shoulders. And you'll find that if you do start to drop, that you lose form in other places because that puts a lot of strain on the whole of the back and then those shoulders as well. So making sure that you keep the shoulder blades separated and the upper back nice and broad. Next, moving down to a very common mistake that people make. When they get tired, they let their lower back droop towards the floor. They let their hips come down towards the floor and they start to feel this pain in their lower back. What I want you to always remember for your plank is to keep almost your pelvis tucked under and your lower back rounded out towards the ceiling, and keeping your hips nice and high in line with the shoulders so that there's a nice long line from the hips down to the heels. From there, that's all you really need to know is that hips down to the heels, nice long line, hips up to the shoulders, nice long line. Like I said, I'm going to come back to the shoulders and the wrists now. So when you drift forward and those shoulders come out over those fingertips, that can be really tough on those wrists. When you drift backwards and the shoulders come back, those hips have a tendency to rise. You're taking all of the work out of the core here and really just kind of decreasing what you're doing for yourself here. And a lot of people, I see this in their mountain climbers. So when you're bringing those knees in, you feel like you need a whole ton of extra space so those hips come up. And you're just not quite getting the core work in that you should be with your mountain climbers. So to make them the most effective that they can be, making sure the shoulders stay right over the wrists and then driving those knees in nice and even, dropping them towards the floor. Whew. All right, so next thing that I want to talk about is a really great way to help yourself build up to a plank. So one of the options for your modified plank is an incline plank. So you would find a bench or a couch or a chair if you're at home, making sure that it's nice and stable. When you put your hands on it, it's not going to tip or roll away. From there, you're taking a little bit of the pressure off of the shoulders by just taking that incline, taking those hands up onto the couch or the bench, and then still following all of those rules that I just said, where you're keeping the shoulders over the wrists, you're keeping a nice long line from the shoulders down to the heels, paying attention to the shoulder blades, the lower back, the hips, all of those good things. Same thing here. Another modification, if you don't have a bench or a couch and you just want to do some floor body weight work, your other modification option is going to be from those knees. So still we're starting out with the shoulders right over those wrists, but instead of coming up onto those toes, we bring those knees back so that there can be that nice long line from the knees up to the shoulders. And there's no shame in this because we want to make sure that our lower back is nice and strong and protected and our core is nice and strong and ready before we try out that full plank. So making sure you're nice and steady here in this long line. And if those hips start to drift back and those shoulders start to drift back from the wrists, just kind of adjusting yourself, making sure that you're getting that good core work in for our modified plank. Another common plank that I see is the plank from the elbows, or low plank. I think personally that for me, this increases a little bit of difficulty of the plank because it's similar to the decline plank in where it puts a little bit more of the pressure equal through the body. For this one, you still want to make sure that the shoulders are right underneath the elbows, so we've still got our stable base of support. And then this is a little bit tougher, like I said, to bring those hips even in line with those shoulders, making sure that we still aren't drooping towards the floor and making sure that we have that nice long line through the body. Using our bench or our couch, our other option, like I said, is a decline plank. So instead of having the hands on the couch, we're making it more difficult by putting those toes up on the couch. And you can do this again from those hands or from those elbows, creating even more of that decline through the body. And you can see my face is getting red because this is kind of tough here. Same thing, making sure that your whole body's in line and that your shoulders stay over your wrists or your elbows. Finally, a couple of options from our high and low plank to take them up a notch. So if you've got a real short time and you want to just find a little hold, you can add a little bit of motion to it to challenge some different muscles and get your body moving in a little bit different of a way. So this is where our movement for our Movement Monday comes in. First things first is, like I said before, our mountain climbers. So setting up in our high plank, and then from here, either slow or fast, driving that knee towards the opposite elbow and then coming back to center. So nice and even, nice and easy. You can step those feet in or you can start to jog those feet in, just making sure that you're dropping the knees, not lifting the hips to drive the knees in. So the knees are dropping towards the floor rather than the hips lifting to make a bunch of extra space there. Another option from our high plank is a shoulder tap. So I like to take my feet a little bit wider for this because we want to keep our hips nice and stable and even, so we don't want them to rock side to side. Our shoulder tap brings us into our plank. We're taking our opposite hand to our opposite shoulder, bringing it through center and moving side to side nice and easy. So we're really working on that core stability as we try and keep our hips even. So we're not rocking and opening up to try and hit that opposite shoulder, but we're just lifting and recentering and rebalancing. Another option for us here is going to be plank commandos. So I've just got two more options for you guys. Plank commandos or up downs. So we're starting in our high plank, and then for this one we want to make sure we alternate which hand we drop and which hand we lift with. So we're going to drop to the elbows then, and then we're going to lift back to those hands. And then, like I said, alternating. So I started going down on my right, so I'll take my left down, and then I came up on my left, so I'll take my right up, and just alternating those and keeping that nice plank form as you do that. And then our final option, we've got a plank with hip dip side to side. So this one I like to do from the elbows because it keeps my hips a little bit closer to the floor. It's a little bit more achievable. I like to space my feet out so that my heels can come down to the mat as I dip my hips down.
So my feet have a little bit of space between them. As I'm here in this nice stable plank, I am then going to dip my hips down to one side. I drop my feet down, my heels down, and then I try to use my core to stay nice and stable to come through center and switch to that other side. So just dipping those hips side to side, just like that. All right. Now that you have all of those awesome options and you have a little bit of time to perfect your plank, finally, like I said, a little bit of a challenge, dropping back to our first week of virtual programming. I put up a plank challenge video, and I want you guys to drop back to that video, join me in a plank, see how long you can hold. Whether you beat my time or not, I want you to post your longest plank time either in the comments below this or that video, or just shoot us an email and let us know, because we want to hear that you're improving your plank, and we want to hear that these Movement Mondays are helpful and valuable to you guys. That's all I have for you today. So I hope to see you over in that plank challenge video soon, and have an awesome rest of your week.